appeal to parents that if you are in crisis, if you need help, there is the National Parenting Support Commission. There are provisions to assist you.
Parents, we urge you to heed Prime Minister Andrew Holness's call and contact the National Parenting Support Commission at 967-7977. Your favorite magazine program starts right now.
Be an active participant in your child's life. Spend time with your child. No phones, no television, no distractions. Just the two of you.
Just the two of us.
Get to know your child through play. Why not go to the park and get on the monkey bars? Sharing a meal can also be a time of bonding. If your child's in school, be involved in school activities. Speak with your child's teacher. Follow up on their progress in school and see how you can help. Assist them with homework. Attend parent-teacher meetings and support school fundraising events. Remember, your child's future is in your hands. Safeguard it.
So glad you are a child of mine.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh and this is your JIS News for Monday, November 13. The government has signed a loan agreement for $15 million with the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, to finance its Energy Management and Efficiency Program, EMEP. The contract was signed on Friday between the Minister of Finance, Audley Shaw, and the IDB's representative, Therese Turner-Jones. The EMEP is designed to promote and facilitate energy efficiency, security, and conservation engagements within the public and private sectors and reduce the dependence on imported fossil fuels.
The objective of the EMEP is to bolster the government's efforts in the areas of energy efficiency and energy conservation through the design and implementation of measures targeting key government facilities as well as fuel conservation in road transportation to reduce the demand for fuel imports.
Minister Shaw said the Energy Management and Efficiency Program is estimated to cost approximately $30 million with co-financing from Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA.
Additional resources of approximately $10 million in grant funding will also be provided by the European Union Caribbean Investment Facility, EUCIF. The second co-financing loan agreement for $15 million from JICA, from Japan, is scheduled to be signed on the 23rd of November, and the grant financing agreement of $10 million between the government and the European Union is expected to be signed shortly thereafter.
Mrs. Turner-Jones said the IDB is pleased to be partnering with Jamaica and JICA to fund the EMEP.
Today is a great moment because it not just focuses on energy efficiency and bringing $7 million worth of savings to your budget every year because of the retrofits. We see this as just one really small component in terms of what the bigger energy plan and policy for the country will deliver over time.
Several digital audio recording and video linking equipment were handed over to the Supreme Court this morning. The $250 million high-tech equipment are funded by the European Union and delivered under the Justice, Security, Accountability and Transparency JSAT project. The improved technology will allow for the court to host audio and video conferencing with witnesses, especially with those under the Witness Protection Program. The equipment will also facilitate a centralized electronic filing system for court documents and provide an efficient data management system. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck said the move is a commitment of partnership to improve the technological infrastructure of the court system.
The equipment is to be installed in 71 courtrooms and 7 hearing rooms, with installation almost completed in the Supreme Court. And as the Permanent Secretary said, the remaining courts across the island will be completed by the end of the year. So come next year, all the courts across Jamaica will be able to, or will be utilizing these equipment thanks to the European Union and the hard work of the MIS unit at the Ministry of Justice.
Minister Chuck added that the equipment also represents ongoing efforts to modernize the justice sector and forms part of the reform agenda. Meanwhile, EU Ambassador to Jamaica said the handover is very symbolic and timely.
The video link and digital recording equipment, which was purchased under Justice, Security, Accountability and Transparency project, is intended to improve efficiencies by relieving judges of the arduous task of manually taking evidence in the courts.
Still on the justice system, Governor-General Sir Patrick Allen will be appointing 5 commissioners to a single anti-corruption unit that will investigate and prosecute corruption in Jamaica. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck said after the Governor-General appoints the commissioners, the process of implementing the terms of the unit will begin.
What this body will do is not only have a director of investigation, but will have a director of corruption prosecution. So this body will now prosecute corruption cases. But what I would like to see, and I'm going to push it, this body must put in place not only MOCA, but have sting operation to catch people.
Minister Chuck confirmed that the Governor-General has signed the Integrity Commission Bill, which was approved by the Senate in July. He said that debates are expected to begin on Tuesday in Parliament regarding the new Justices of the Peace Act of 2017. The Act seeks to strengthen procedures for the selection, appointment and regulation of JPs. Changes to the new bill will allow for the expansion of the geographical jurisdiction of JPs, allowing them to give island-wide service in respect of non-judicial functions. And 241 Justices of the Peace were commissioned in St. Catherine on Wednesday. The group represents the largest cohort to be commissioned in history in one sitting. Minister of Justice Delroy Chuck encouraged the cohort to join the government in the fight against crime and violence.
We need persons who stand up for decency, for honesty, persons of integrity, persons with unblemished character, to be in every crevice, every corner, every community, on every byway, every highway, every nook and cranny of Jamaica, because one way or another we are going to recapture Jamaica and make it a peaceful place.
To equip the JPs for their new roles, the Justice Ministry will be facilitating mandatory training sessions. And finally, the lower house has passed amendments to the General Consumption Tax (GCT) Act to remove the exemption enjoyed by some public agencies. The bill is expected to stem the revenue leakage in the tax collection system and result in greater compliance from suppliers of goods and services to government entities. This is being done through the withholding tax regime, where the GCT that government pays is paid directly to revenue. Though the original amendments took effect on June 1, 2014, Finance Minister Audley Shaw explained that some public bodies were still benefiting from tax exemptions.
This bill therefore seeks to make permanent the removal of the residual exemptions, mostly in relation to imports that were previously provided to the institutions listed.
The bill will now go before the Senate, and when passed, only the Jamaica Defense Force and schools are exempt from paying general consumption tax on taxable goods. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
Finger-licking jerk chicken, Helcher fish and bami, will run down yam and banana, roast breadfruit, sweet potato pudding. Jamaica food sweet. This November is Eat Jamaican Month, so let's make a pledge to use more local produce and less foreign goods. Let's grow what we eat and eat what we grow.
On today's program, we'll continue our observation of Eat Jamaican Month. And what better way to kick things off than by showcasing our nutritious offerings.
An agricultural sector steeped in a tradition of excellence, ripe for expanded production. energized to tap into new markets. A nation of champions. Food. For most, that probably means the broad label for just about every edible item we humans consume. Now, Jamaicans fully agree to this, but in the lingua of the island, food is also a specific term for the side dishes that accompany the main course of Jamaican meals. You might also hear them called ground or grung provisions: yam, potato, sweet or Irish, dasheen, cocoa, cassava, and others that are staples of the island's agricultural output. Farmers, supported by government and strong private groups, plant and harvest these crops for the discerning Jamaican consumer and a reliable export market. As the world marvels at the lightning speed of the likes of Usain Bolt and Veronica Campbell-Brown, many have asked, is it in the food? Perhaps the yellow yam?
969.
When we roast the yellow yam, when we roast the yellow yam, and we slice it in a two, and we slice it in a two.
The skin is brown, sometimes black, and some say scaly. Peel away the outer layer and get to the heart of its starchy goodness. There you'll find fulfillment and a taste that is as distinctive as the indescribable talent of our trailblazing athletic stars. More importantly, in the heart of our yams are essential nutrients for healthy living: vitamins C and B6, potassium, manganese, fiber, and iron. These nutrients converge in several varieties of the Jamaican yam, a tuber with off-white, purple, white, yellow, and sometimes red flesh, depending on the variety. For every type of yam, there is a uniquely Jamaican name, like renta, yampi, moonshine, or afu. Whatever the name, they're all edible, just so long as you cook them first. And with thousands of acres of fertile land, yam production is an island-wide vocation in Jamaica. But you might be surprised, or not, to know that the most popular yam-producing parish, Trelawney, is also the home of the world's fastest man.
Corrected to 969. The relax. Usain Bolt. Tremendous running by this man.
Daylight come and me want go home. Work all night.
From jerk to curry recipes, Jamaican cooking is all about the spices, sourced right on the island. With the support of the state entity responsible for managing all things agricultural, the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, Jamaica's spice producers are on the verge of stamping a bolder mark on the competitive international industry, with many programs unfurling to increase the production of traditional spices like ginger, turmeric, nutmeg, and pimento, and non-traditional spices such as hot peppers and onion. And the possibilities are bountiful. Take ginger and turmeric, for example. Both grow with relative ease almost anywhere on the island. In fact, travel to some places in Jamaica and you can find turmeric growing wild, unfettered by any environmental condition that could stunt its growth. Whether for use as a condiment, for its healing properties, or simply for coloring, consumers worldwide can't seem to get enough turmeric. Global trade in turmeric has been trending up, and so have prices. As for Jamaican ginger, it has long been considered among, if not the best in the world. Current global demand for Jamaican ginger is estimated at 21,000 metric tons in its fresh form and 4,200 tons dried, and there's room for growth.
We'll pick up on our foods later in the show, but first, let's head to Jamaica House to get the latest news stories coming out of the office of the Prime Minister.
I wish to declare that I am totally against corporal punishment. It is possible for Jamaica to go to approximately 50% of its energy needs provided by alternatives.
And
the country should now prepare itself for profound, fundamental, but changes that are beneficial to the NHT and to the people of Jamaica.
You're watching Jamaica House Weekly. I'm Lorraine Mendez. A merger of the National Housing Trust and the Housing Agency of Jamaica, the privatization of the Jamaica Mortgage Bank, just some of the recommendations Cabinet is being asked to consider as Prime Minister Andrew Holness received the report at Jamaica House Tuesday from Commission Chairman Ambassador Nigel Clark.
It will do the rounds internally with the Cabinet and within the government's parliamentary group. We will have bipartisan discussion with the opposition. The opposition was involved and represented on the committee. And then we will move to a stage of further public discourse on the report. I believe that the time has come for the Parliament to have a debate on this issue and finally declare corporal punishment at an end, both within public institutions and as a means of discipline available to parents.
Prime Minister Holness's impassioned plea as he addressed Parliament Tuesday on the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs), reasoning that corporal punishment violated the good health and well-being clause of the SDGs. Mr. Holness reiterated government's commitment to banning corporal punishment in society. He also shared a UNICEF report which states that 8 in 10 children aged 2 to 10 years old experience violence as a form of discipline. The report also outlined that 47 children have been killed by violent means between January and October this year.
With such a report, with our commitments to the SDGs, I don't see how we can maintain this aspect of our culture and claim that we want to advance as a modern civilized society. The two things are incoherent and inconsistent.
While in Parliament Tuesday, Mr. Holness committed his government to tabling a report into the boundary definition for the cockpit country. The boundary definition is an official response to a Jamaica House petition filed by an environmental lobby group which received over 15,000 signatures. Mr. Holness said a special session of Cabinet was held Monday to finalize the cockpit country boundaries.
We are hoping that we will be able to bring to this Parliament, not next sitting, but the following sitting, the final boundaries as settled by the Cabinet of Jamaica and hopefully will be settled here in the Parliament as well.
Prime Minister Holness also used Tuesday's sitting of Parliament to table answers to questions about the potential impact of the Battersea bauxite residue disposal site. In the response, Mr. Holness said environmental management and monitoring programs in the area were ongoing. So too are regular community meetings with residents. The Prime Minister said tests are also being done on air and groundwater quality. By Wednesday, Prime Minister Holness was in St. Elizabeth touring operations at BMR Jamaica Wind.
I certainly believe that there is great potential in this side of the island between Manchester and St. Elizabeth for there to be an expansion in wind generating plants.
To augment that, Prime Minister Holness said government was formulating an integrated resource plan which will project the island's future energy needs and how to supply it through the use of wind and solar renewables. Back in Kingston, Mr. Holness chaired a meeting of the National Partnership Council. At Thursday's meeting, the group discussed the demonstration for improved road infrastructure in St. Thomas earlier in the week. Mr. Holness also received the paper-based petition on the cockpit country from CEO of the Jamaica Environment Trust, Diana McCauley.
We cannot be ambivalent about tackling corruption. We have to be strident. We cannot just talk conveniently. We must act even if it brings some discomfort.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness is charged to the latest batch of 434 integrity champions who received certification Sunday. The integrity-focused and anti-corruption leadership training was provided through a partnership involving the National Integrity Action,
the Council of Voluntary Social Services, and the USAID. And on Saturday, Prime Minister Holness journeyed to the National Arena to view Father Holong and Friends 2017 production in aid of charity.
The work you do it on behalf of all of us, and you do it to the glory of God. And we are grateful and we are thankful. And we are here to support you and to strengthen you. God bless.
And that's how we close out Jamaica House Weekly. Do join us again next time for more of the news coming out of the office of the Prime Minister.
We promise to continue to showcase our nutritious foods, right? Well, get the scoop on the agro-processing sector next.
Jamaica is a tiny giant in the world of agro-processed foods. Island producers are dishing out big, unique flavors, employing ingenuity and utilizing the support of state agencies to steadily eke out more of the international market for these goods. Jamaican companies like Central Food Packers are making a mark on this agricultural offshoot, exporting quality canned, bottled and baked foods to markets in North America, the United Kingdom, Canada and the Caribbean. Included in the mix are mild to spicy hot sauces, jams and jellies, a must if you want to proclaim your Jamaicanness. Ackee, delivered to you in a can, and for a bit of green delight, callaloo canned in brine. Then there are some unique Jamaican spreads for your breads and biscuits, like a dab of Solomon Gundy or a spoonful of delicious mango, sorrel or tamarind chutney. And let's not forget the roots wines. Jamaica's value-added agro-processors are engaged in other sweet pursuits. Companies like Honeykiss are churning out all-natural honey confections. As they'll tell you, and you can taste for yourself, pure Jamaican wildflower honey is infused with just a choops of natural unique fruits, vegetables and spices, ginger, Blue Mountain coffee, pimento, allspice, Scotch bonnet pepper. Sweet, aromatic, rich, strong are entirely inadequate labels. Have a taste of authentic Jamaican honey and what you'll get is a pure, honest flavor, aroma and taste, and medicinal benefits that make healthy living absolutely enticing. Whether your delight is tea, coffee, or maybe cocoa, Jamaican value-added producers have carved out a reputation for delivering only the best. Jamaica is known for its lush landscapes, revered for its music, celebrated for its track stars, and the world is hooked on our coffee. And it's hardly surprising. The species of choice in the Jamaican coffee industry, Arabic coffee, is widely accepted as producing the far superior cup. And Blue Mountain is the brand best loved by coffee connoisseurs from near and far, commanding high prices wherever it's sold. Cultivated high up in the misty blue-hued mountains of the island, maturing in rich volcanic-based soil, only the best bright red cherries are hand-picked, sun-dried, stored, cured, hulled, polished, sized, hand-sorted and packaged to bring the highest quality coffee to your tables. The end product is a cup of exceptionally balanced, exotic and intense aroma with an intricate range of flavor notes that is said to include a subtle hint of herbs, spice and chocolate. Let's take a tea break. Authentic, Jamaican, instant, Salada teas are among a thriving tea market that bags flavors familiar to most people and countries, mixed in with some distinct Jamaican blends. Now for another sweet treat. The cacao plant, or Jamaican cocoa, is a wide-branching evergreen tree from which the world-famous Jamaican cocoa, chocolate, and cocoa butter are produced. Local companies like Chocolate Dreams are milking the lessons learned from centuries of Jamaican cocoa production to turn out sweet delights for every palate. Besides being a pleasure to the taste buds, these products benefit from the many nutritious compounds of the Jamaican cocoa beans. From the mild stimulant of the caffeine alkaloid theobromine to its natural fat starch and the natural amphetamine phenylethylamine, Jamaican cocoa is a folk remedy for maladies from wounds to fevers, coughs, burns, and listlessness. Its fat, Jamaican cocoa butter, is used in confections, in manufacturing soaps and cosmetics. Sweet, medicinal, another Jamaican agri-pursuit poised for new investment, ready to compete with the best anywhere in the world. So, what's your delight? Whatever it is, Jamaican farmers and end producers are uniquely and creatively positioned to deliver. In this land of wood and water, champions are not just made for the tracks, they're also found in the fields and in the shopping carts of discerning consumers the world over.
How well do you know your child? What he or she likes or dislikes? Favorite food or color? How about who their friends are? Make the time. Get to know your child. It helps to build their relationship. Makes it easy to keep them safe, and it helps their development process.
Though fulfilling, parenting can sometimes be a frustrating endeavor. It may also be a mix of trial and error. But even through these periods, we as the chosen guides for all future leaders have to always be mindful of what we teach them. We have to be the positive and ever reassuring influence on them. And one way of doing that may be choosing not to use corporal punishment when we discipline our young.
When we use violence in the disciplining of our children, what we are teaching them is that the only way to deal with stress, to make corrections, to change, is by the use of violence. And then we look on and marvel as to why our society is so violent and we have so many murders. When we as parents resort to the ultimate punishment and defend it, that good will come of it. No good will come of it.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness is right. If Jamaica is to fulfill its promise of being the place of choice to live, work, raise families and do business, we have to be a positive influence on our children. We don't have to beat them to teach them. We don't have to love them with hits. Instead, we should all strive to discipline with love, understanding, compassion, and most of all, patience. Our time on this station is up, but we'll be back round about the same time tomorrow, so be sure to join us then. If you're just tuning in, go over to jis.gov.jm or our YouTube page to watch the program in full. Our Facebook, Instagram and Twitter accounts also have useful information you can use. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Walk good.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.